Let's create our first edit. To create an edit, we need more than just a single piece of footage. We need other things to cut into and out of. So we're going to go ahead and import some more footage. These are some shots of when I went to Japan, so we'll just go through here and grab a couple of them. Let's say this one, and maybe that one right there. So you'll see that they are all imported right here. And you'll also notice that it now says stereo at 4800 Hertz. That's because these clips have audio with them. And you'll also notice something else right here. This is a different frame rate. So in a perfect world, we would not combine frame rates like this. We might get stuttering whenever we render out in 30 frames per second because these are only providing 24 frames per second. That means every second there are 6 frames it does not have. And because of that, if we mismatch like this, we're going to get a big problem of, again, that stuttering. It's going to have to basically take a frame and make it go for 2 frame lengths instead of a single. And if you've never used an editor before, that's how frames generally work, or how the editor displays them, is a video clip is actually a series of a whole bunch of pictures put together. And how many pictures is the frame rate. So in this situation, we're taking essentially 24, this is a very technical number, has something to do with the math of the old school cameras, but 23.976, that means every second we're displaying 23.976 different frames. A lot more easier to understand is every second we're displaying 30 frames. So you'll notice that whenever we scrub through the timeline with this button right here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We move all the way forward here. This is a 30 frames per second. So you'll notice it moves the second forward whenever we go up like that. This is not milliseconds or anything in that sort of realm. This is the number of frames. Everything in video editing works with the number of frames because we don't have any data between, for example, 28 and 27. There's nothing in there. It's not a continuous set of data. It's just a series of pictures put together. So that's important to understand about video editing. But even though that these are different, I'm going to go ahead and add them in because, you know, this is an official project. But if it was an official project, we'd have to figure something else out. Typically what we do is we take this sequence, we'd make it a 24 frame per second sequence, and we then add this in. The reason for that is this would then have extra information, and that's perfectly okay. But when we don't have enough information, that's when we get stuttering. Anyway, off that sort of little tangent there, let's go ahead and grab some footage and drag it in. So you'll see that we have this green box indicating where it's going to go. We do not have to put it one after the other. A lot of like mobile editors will force you to do that. We can just drag it, drop it right here, and just have black space in between if we so chose. What we're going to do though is create an edit. So we're going to drag this in, and let's bring this one in and bring this one in as well. So right now what we have is a series of clips put together. We haven't actually done any editing yet. We've just put them one after the other after the other. And what we want to do is we want to start, you know, cutting and making sure that we only use the most important parts. And this is important because a lot of people on YouTube, they'll kind of create footage and create videos that are like this, where they don't do any cutting and there's a lot of dead space in between different cuts. What we want to do, however, is we want to make this fast, snappy, maybe something that's sort of like displaying some cool scenery. So let's go ahead and, if we click spacebar, let's bring it to maybe, let's say every second we want it to change. So we can drag this to perfectly 1 second right there. And then if we click this, you'll see that there's that little caret or the curly brace on the right there. We can drag this over and it'll lock to our current cursor. So now it's kind of hard to see right here. So we can go into down here and we can click this once, or we can drag this to make this bigger or smaller. So we're going to zoom this in just a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. So we have now 1 second of this footage. We're going to drag this over and let's make sure that it snaps to the end there. And let's go to 2. You can click on this as well to make this a little easier. So we can type in 200 or directly at 2. And we can drag this over. Let's drag this one over as well. And you know the drill here. Now we're going to go to 3. And this is pretty much a lot of the editing. We have to do this constantly with editing. That's why editing takes some time. Now, with this, I could try to, you know, scroll this over so that I could grab it and move it over, but we can do something else called a cut. So with a cut, we're using this slice tool. And it's C on your keyboard. That's what the parentheses mean on any of these. It means you click that on your keyboard and it will immediately move to that. Right now what we're on is we're on the selection tool, which is V. So if I click C, what it's going to do is going to switch me to the cut tool. So if I click C, you'll see that we're on the cut tool, the red highlights, and that means I want to make a cut right here. So you'll see that now I have the exact same clip. Nothing has happened. It doesn't look like there's, a jump here. What we've done though is we've separated the data in the space of the timeline. And now what we can do is we can just click on this one and click the delete key and it'll just remove it. So we don't have to keep doing that sort of drag over stuff. And then finally, we can do that drag over stuff because we got to grab this one and bring it over as well. And what I usually do is I'm typically moving in and out of zoom. We can use the control key to do that. If you'll notice, I have the on my keyboard, I just held the control key down. You can hear it. And as I'm holding it, if I use a mouse wheel and go forward and back, I can zoom in and out. If you're on a laptop, you're probably just going to have to keep coming down here to move in and out. Let's drag that over. I'm going to zoom it in. We're going to move forward to 4 seconds. Click enter. And then again, C tool. Make sure that we're selected in here. C, it's going to switch. Click, it's going to delete. And now we are good to go with our first edit. Now you'll notice we actually hear some things in here. You'll notice as I scroll, it's trying to play it. Might be a little bit loud. But generally, this is our audio. This is our audio track down here. You can see the wave format as it goes. So there's not going to be a lot of audio on the left there, but there is going to be some going up, and you'll hear that as it goes up, and then it moves, and then there won't be a lot here with a little pop, and then there's nothing over here. So now, though, we have a little edit going. If we click the play button, let's take a little watch here. Pretty cool. We're on a beat here. We're actually creating some interest as we move through, and we've begun to create an edit. That's the basics of editing. Let's keep moving forward.